then it does impact personal relationships, how you feel about yourself, like your mental health. And it just makes you like evaluate like what is important to me.
Hello everyone, I'm Mark Tuxford and welcome to my podcast, People Behind Brands, brought to you by Making Websites Better. In each episode, I'm joined by an inspirational guest to hear more about their individual life lessons and how it shaped them into who they are today. To never miss an episode, subscribe to our exclusive content now and follow us on our social media platforms. People Behind Brands, life lessons from the world of business. In this episode, we chat to Helen Barnett, a former national newspaper journalist turned content strategist, helping brands find their voice and tell their stories with clarity and impact. Helen takes us behind the scenes of her journalism days, the role she always dreamed of doing as a young girl. From cutting her teeth as a crime reporter to chasing deadlines, turning up to intense interviews and learning to perform under pressure. Today, she channels that same tenacity and storytelling instinct into working one-on-one with clients, becoming what she calls their own personal journalist. We also dive into Helen's experience with Burnout, how news has changed in the media over the years, and how launching her own content strategy business gave her the freedom to choose not just what she works on, but who she works with. Plus, we get a glimpse into her roots as a Crewe Alexandra fan and the unexpected journey of falling in love with the beautiful game. This is a conversation about trusting your instincts, following your dream, and finding freedom in the work you love. Helen, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good, thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah, and you. Where is it you're joining us from today?
Billericay, so South Essex.
Very nice indeed. Today we welcome Helen Barnett, a freelance content writer and strategist. During 14 years as a journalist and editor, Helen has helped lead a major national news website and now gives focus to using those skills to help businesses grow through the power of words. Helen works with her clients to provide written blogs, press releases, website copy, newsletters, white papers, reports, social media and more, all within an educated content strategy. With a background in journalism myself, Helen and I bonded over our passion for written content, and I invited her on the podcast to share her life lessons from the world of business and touching upon her personal life to date. So, Helen, let's get straight into it. Perhaps firstly, you could tell us a little bit more about your venture and how you developed that brand over the time.
Yes, so I work for myself, so it's Helen Barnett Media, and I started the content strategy and writing business at the end of about 2022 after 8 years on the nationals and about the same on local papers in Essex as well. And by this point, I was an associate editor on the website, so I was sort of overseeing the news lists of all the teams, from news to politics, lifestyle, health, finance, all the different sort of topics you'd normally find on a news website. And I was also helping to develop the strategy, and I headed up the email newsletter division, which was all about increasing subscribers and page views through an owned audience. So after 8 years, I got to the point where I sort of wanted a new challenge and sort of to learn again. And I'd been asked by a few people who I know to help them with content. And I basically took the plunge to do it full time. They'd sort of, the fact that there was a need for me and a want for me made me think, gave me the confidence to go for it. So initially I was hired by people to write blogs and website content, but it wasn't long before, I can't help myself, I started helping with the strategy and audience development, SEO, newsletters, content ideas. So basically advising them on the strategy side of things. I now focus a lot more on what's the strategy behind what's being written. So the brand messaging, how businesses position themselves, how individuals can build their profile and credibility, and sort of be known for what their prospects want to see. So during this time, I've kind of refined what I do and developed a 5-step content strategy process. So I take businesses from confusion, where they're sort of not really knowing what to do, feeling a bit overwhelmed, take them from confusion to clarity, so they know what they're saying, where, reducing their overwhelm, and basically refining their brand message.
Yeah, so you mentioned obviously a little bit there about the types of clients you work with. So could you go into a little bit more detail of what those clients are like and the sort of the position they are when they work with you or start to work with you?
Yeah, so there's a few different types of people that I work with. Generally, it's B2B SMEs, but I also work with sort of C-suite individuals who are wanting to raise their own personal profile. And I do advise new business owners on their content strategy as well. And that's something that I'm doing a little bit more in now. I've got this 5 steps because originally it was all me doing it all for you. And obviously small businesses can't always afford that, so I've come up with something that's a bit more accessible where they can sort of do a lot of the work themselves. So I say that sounds like I work with everyone, but essentially it's B2Bs. More often than not, they're SMEs, but as I say, I also work with individuals, small business owners, micro business owners, and individuals themselves who want to improve their visibility. So yeah, I guess like the strengths that I have is simplifying complicated topics, coming up with ideas, because that's the journalist in me. I'm always having to come up with news lines in the job, and tailoring those ideas to what the key messages are that a business wants to show. Yeah, and that might be through long or any long form content that I also write. So thought leadership, comment pieces, case studies, blogs. Don't really do social media creation, content creation, apart from LinkedIn, because it's longer form. But with social media, I sort of advise on the ideas, but I'm not going to be creating your reels.
So in terms of your USP then, there's obviously lots of people that try to position themselves as, content strategists, content writers, etc. But why do you think that you're different to, competitors, I suppose?
I basically am your in-house journalist. So using that sort of nose for a story, I can come up with a million different ways to explain what your company does, but also tailor it to your audience. And I think that's what's always been a strength of mine in journalism, is actually working out what the audience wants to see. And so in newspapers, that was what our core readership was wanting. But in business sense, it's what your prospects are wanting, because a lot of businesses try and be everything to everyone, and then they're not really anything to anyone because they're not standing out. So it's really like honing in on what makes that business special and tailoring what you write and what you put out there to basically connect with those clients. So I guess my USP is being able to do that. So it's, I guess, it's kind of like going into level upon level of it. But yeah, essentially being that journalist who can tell you straight, because I don't really mess around with platitudes. If something's gonna hurt you, I will say you need to be probably doing it this way, or here's a good idea that will work. So yes, being that in-house journalist, I think, is what sets me apart, especially because from what I have learned talking to people in the industry, talking to people who like customers, a lot of people in marketing and PR don't necessarily have the writing skills, and from what I've heard, writing is not actually taught in marketing qualifications. So marketers are knowing how to market a business but don't necessarily have the skills to write something that's not just surface level, that's actually got thought behind it and nuance, the stuff that AI can't do.
Yes, no, I was going to say about AI, because you can generate content through AI, but it's not there yet for me. It's not there yet in terms of the sort of human side of content and all that sort of stuff. But we'll see what happens with that. But in terms of your own career journey so far, talk to us about how this led you to obviously fronting your own business now, as you've had some great experience working for well-known media outlets in the past as well.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to wanting a new challenge. I'm always wanting to learn, and I think I never had heard of the growth mindset before I started doing this, but it turns out I have it. So basically just always wanting to develop and challenge myself. And it got to the point where, if you've done the news cycle a few times, and we have had a very tumultuous, 8 years of me being in national media, I guess it just kind of got to the point where I thought, what else am I getting from this personally? I'm getting a lovely salary, doing, working at a prestigious well-known brand, but is it actually sort of feeding my soul anymore? And I feel like I just wanted to do something else to, do something for me that was challenging, that was going to force me to learn things again. And it's definitely been a learning curve, definitely been a challenge. But yeah, I guess that's one of the things that drives me.
Yeah, definitely. So in one of your previous roles, you worked as a crime reporter. So perhaps you could give us some insight into the stories you would report on, because obviously this is lots of people watch, crime programs, crime dramas and all that sort of stuff, and they sort of see themselves as a little bit of a crime reporter, I think. But from your actual profession, how did you deal with it?
Yeah, so this was in local news as a crime reporter, and I'd say it was like probably my favorite job looking back on it, but it was definitely the most stressful because you always have to be on top of everything, being the first to get to a scene if something's breaking. You're on the front line of breaking news, which is exciting, but also the pressure to get everything, dealing with people who maybe have seen something quite traumatic or been involved in something traumatic. But yeah, I guess the types of stories that I would cover, it could be, general court reporting. Or it could be, I'd get a tip off that something was, there'd be a police raid going on. So I'd like rush down to property to like see what was going on, kind of watch it all unfold, go door knocking. Sometimes you would have to go and door knock because you'd heard something bad had happened in an area, which is sensitive. So that was always a challenge. And I think it's something that people don't miss, but it's also kind of like the rewarding thing as well when you manage to build that trust with someone who, you get to see exciting things and see justice being people being held to account, but you also speak to people who have gone through really awful things, and when they trust you to tell their story, I felt like really honoured that they trusted me and we'd managed to build that relationship, which can literally be you knock on the door and you have to build that rapport straight away. Yeah. So it is quite difficult, and it's a skill, and not everybody has those personable skills. Yeah. So yeah, they were always my sort of most treasured stories because I felt like I was trying to get justice for them. Mm. So this could be a man who was wrongly accused of rape. He came and spoke to me about everything that he'd gone through, and he'd had to go through court and be sort of, for over a year being thought of as a rapist when actually he'd been a victim himself. That's obviously very sensitive. Another horrendous story was parents of babies who had died and had their photos stolen by a con artist who was trying to steal money, and they obviously were very angry but also very upset, and it's just a horrendous thing to have to go through. And I worked a lot with those parents to tell their stories and sort of follow the case when it was going through courts. There's also been some sort of funny moments or strange moments. So there was a siege where there was a wanted man trying to evade arrest. So he climbed on the roof of his mum's flat, and it was very much like The Hangover because it was a boiling hot day. He had no top on, so he's getting sunburn on his flat, trying to the police were on the other side trying to talk to him, and it was just a ridiculous scene because he wasn't going to get away with anything. He was going to get arrested, but he was just up there for hours. And at one point I was there collecting quotes from people at the scene, and he shouts at me, "Oi, Ginge!" It's like, am I Ginger? Is that me? And then also going to court and people quite angry at me for reporting on justice being served. So even once a police officer's dad actually pushed me into a wall outside court because his son was accused of, I think it was a sexual offence. Right. But he wasn't happy that I was there. So yeah, it's a very colourful time in my life. Yeah. I mean, I could speak about it for ages of things that I've had to write about, but you get to see the best and the worst of people in that job.
Yeah, I think from my own experiences in journalism, I always enjoyed the kind of the chase with it, I think. Certainly getting, like you say, you have to be there at the right time and, collecting the interviews and quotes and stuff like that. But ultimately, it was kind of the chase I quite enjoyed. Obviously, I've done more sort of sports writing and stuff like that, but always making sure I've got to go and interview the manager, I've got to go and interview that specific player and not let them walk off or go home and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's quite a good time, really. But The art of reading a newspaper, whether it be a tabloid or broadsheet, is probably seen as a dying element in the online age. So, as someone who has worked in that industry, where do you see the area of news going, and what does this mean for, newspaper publications moving forward?
Oh, it's such a hard question, because I believe there is still appetite for good journalism, but there is a huge problem with trust. So that's been, scandals in the past with newspapers have turned people off, but also it's turning people towards places that aren't regulated, places where, it's social media, where you can end up on a page where there's conspiracy theories all over the place, or people breaking ethical laws. And I know people can roll their eyes saying a journalist talking about ethics, but there are standards that journalists have to follow, and if they don't, then they are punished for it. And that's not just like ethical, the editor's code, but media law. And for like to the point of, you can't publish the identity of a child, or someone who's been a victim of sexual offence. That is very serious. That can have a huge impact on their lives, and journalists take these matters very, very seriously.
Yeah.
And also, contempt of court, that's a massive one, which is under threat because of unregulated media, where people, everyone thinks they're a journalist and a publisher, so they'll publish whatever, but actually that could be really damaging to getting justice in court. So it's a worrying time, and it's a frustrating time, because there are a lot of good journalists who are doing things for the right reasons, and then just a few that have sort of spoilt the industry, basically. Yeah. And it's eroded trust. I think the fact that there is a dying readership, and it is a dying readership with print, is also putting extra pressure on newspapers, both online and in print, to manage their finances. So a lot of online journalism you'll probably see now is going behind paywall, and it might just be a free subscriber paywall, or it might just be a lot of content going behind that paywall, and you think, can I do without it? Can I find it somewhere else? And the problem in the UK is we've got the BBC, so we're competing with the BBC. So can you get this content elsewhere? If you can, you're not going to pay for it. So I think newspapers need to come, and they are coming up with ways where they're giving content that is irresistible, that you can't get elsewhere. And so for newspapers particularly, this is needs to all be focusing on analysis. What's going on in a newspaper? Tomorrow's newspaper is going to be today's news, so yesterday's news. Shall I say that again? Today's newspaper is yesterday's news. Yep. So if it's breaking news, you'll have already heard the general headline of what happened, but it's the extra stuff that journalists can produce. So analysis, deep dives, commentary. What does this mean? Here's some data analysis of what it means. Here's all the whole picture that you can't necessarily get, or might not even want to read online or elsewhere. So I think that's where newspapers are really important, that they can offer that extra 360 view on something, rather than just the one sentence breaking news push alert that you've got on your phone.
Yeah, I agree. What would you say is your mission in life, especially when you look back over your career and obviously where you are today?
It's that I think that's a hard question, actually, because I always wanted to be a journalist. And literally from a young kid reading Girl Talk magazine, there was this little girly magazine for 7-year-olds with a picture of a cute dog on the back every week. And I basically just wanted to always write and just tell people's stories. But I think the overriding theme on what makes me happy and brings me joy is working with genuine, hardworking businesses and business owners who have got a strong idea and want to grow organically. They're looking at the long term. They're not just after short-term wins that don't actually serve them in the long term. I think that's I've worked for a company that was limited for a newspaper, a privately owned newspaper, and a PLC. And the struggle with PLC is it's short term for shareholders, and I find that a bit of a struggle sometimes. If there was pressure from shareholders, what would they want to do, and is that the right thing? So I think that's like in my head, does it feel right that we're doing this, or does it feel like just a short term win and you're going to be interested in something else next year? That doesn't float my boat.
Yeah, well, I think obviously you coming from a journalism background where you're literally going out to interview anyone, really, when you think about it, is that now with your business you get to work with who you want. There's kind of a key difference there, isn't there? It's not that you're just interviewing and working with literally anyone. It's that this point now you can choose, and I think that's quite a powerful thing. Our podcast is founded upon honesty and how testing times have impacted our lives. So away from business, can you tell us about a challenging time in your life that made you who you are today?
Yeah, I think this is a difficult one, thinking about what to share, because I don't actually share much about my personal life. I like to keep it separate, so it has been difficult. But I think I hit burnout definitely in newspapers. I think around COVID time, we were all working from home, and it was like you sort of felt a bit invisible to people seeing how busy you were, and we're all just trying to get through what was going on. And at some point it just got like too much, so it kind of made me think. I hit burnout, but I was also dealing with like bad health at the time as well, and it made me think about like what I wanted to do, what made me tick. And yeah, the news cycle wasn't really doing it for me, and like I say, like short-termism wasn't. And in journalism, there is always a threat of redundancy. It's literally like there's cuts all the time, and it becomes a bit of a inevitability that you're going to probably face redundancy at some point. So I guess I just wanted to take a bit of control for me. I think I know it's sort of work related, but I think the burnout thing, it gets to you, and it impacts like all areas of your life. Like when something bad is happening at work and it's like continuous, then it does impact personal relationships, how you feel about yourself, like your mental health. And it just makes you like evaluate like what is important to me. And it also, like, I'd never really thought about that before, because I think I say, like, working for yourself, you're in control, you're making the decisions, you're putting yourself out there like how you want to put yourself out there. So actually, when I started running my own business, I really had to think about that. Like, I had to think, who am I and who do I want to be? And it was a strange question, because I think when you work for someone else, you're always thinking, what's the right thing to say for them? Like, how's it going to make them look? That'll help me quickly make the decision, because I need to show up best for them. But actually now it's for you. It's like, who am I? And also you need to really confront your the things that can hold you back and deal with them. So like the personality traits you have which are holding you back, maybe it's like lack of confidence, imposter syndrome, money mindset, anything. You just have to actually confront it, and it is confronting, but I think in the end it's empowering.
No, I agree with that. You sort of touched upon a little bit about mental health and not being in the best sort of form of health at that time, but how much of an impact does that have on your personal life and your family and friends, spending time with them?
Yeah, well, it does. Mental health affects everything, doesn't it? It affects how you feel about yourself in work and in personal life. So that's going to put a strain on relationships, and sometimes that might show up in arguments. So it might show up in avoiding people. And I think they're probably the two things that I do. I either avoid or just get annoyed. Avoid or get annoyed.
So when we originally spoke about you coming on the podcast, we got into the conversation of your hobbies and interests. You mentioned you were a Crewe Alexandra supporter. I don't think I've ever met a Crewe fan before. So perhaps for those that aren't aware of the history, what does Crewe mean to you?
Yeah, so as you can probably tell, I live in Billericay, but I'm not from there. So I'm from South Cheshire originally. So Crewe is the football team that we all support, or Man United. So I was not going to be a Glory supporter. My dad supported Crewe, all my family supported Crewe, so I would go down there, and I think it was a bit of a happy accident that I ended up being a fan. So all my like the boys in the family were going, and I went with my mum was the chairman of Scouts, and they got a free ticket for all the Scouts, and I went with them. Like the only girl there, sat there like my mum thought I was going to be bored out of my brain, moaning I was cold, and I loved it. It was so good. We won, which helped. We met one of the players afterwards that we'd like named man of the match, so it was really exciting. And I think that is basically sums up Crewe. They're such a family orientated club, from not just that, like they used to do like £1 tickets for kids and stuff. They might still do that actually. It's always very cheap to get in, even now. I mean, sometimes I go to Billericay Town and I'm like, this is how much the tickets are compared to Crewe. But yeah, and also their ethics and how they've grown the team is always been through grassroots. And I think that's probably like how I like to it's rubbed off on me through my years, because I'm saying, you know, I want to work with genuine hardworking businesses. I really respected that and really appreciated it, even at like a young age, because it kind of gave people hope that they could get into you know, football, but also it was like a sustainable way to run a business, because they would get their money through the youth team that would then become the stars of the future and, you know, get salons and stuff. So that's kind of where I was. I had a season ticket till I was 18 and left home. I feel like moving down south, it's been quite hard to like keep in touch with what's going on. And I say I'm a Crewe fan, and I always will be a Crewe fan, but it's probably drifted a little bit since I was 18, which is a very long time ago. But yeah, I do always appreciate them. What they're trying to do.
So it's a good sort of club that's really founded, I think, the EFL. As you say, grassroots players that have come through. You know, Dean Ashton, Danny Murphy, lots of different types of players that have gone on to have very good careers. But a little trivia before the end of the episode, Helen, where we talk about some of your most favourite things in a quick fire round. So, are you ready for a quick fire round, Helen?
I'll try my hardest. It's got to make some decisions now, haven't I?
You have indeed.
Not my strong point.
So, favourite food?
Anything Asian.
Very nice. Favourite band or artist from the world of music?
Oh, it's so hard, this one. I'm going to say Leanne Lahavas, who is like a R&B soul funk sort of singer. She's got an amazing voice and plays guitar beautifully. So probably her.
Favourite programme on TV or film?
Succession. Absolutely loved it. Obviously it's about journalism too, but it's also about the politics of like internal politics of running a business, and it's hilarious too.
Favourite place in the world or holiday destination?
Cuba. I went there 2019. Loved it. Music everywhere. My kind of place.
Favourite famous person that you've met?
That I've met?
Or not met in this case?
Gosh. Who have I met? The only person I can think of is that, what's his name? Hugh. Do you remember that show that was like the comedy show Mock the Week? Yeah. What's his name? Hugh
Dennis.
Yes, yeah. Who's so nice.
Yeah.
It's so random, that person.
Did you meet quite a few sort of well-known people during your journalism career?
I met a few. Interviewed Nigel Farage a few times. I don't know if you'd say he's infamous.
Yeah.
And he is very good at what he does. No matter what you think of his politics, he knows how to get a headline. It was quite interesting, actually, watching him come up with getting the headlines. Gets that soundbite. He's very good at it.
And I've got to ask this question, but favourite all-time Crewe Alexandra player?
Well, I've got to go with homegrown Dean Ashton. I went to school with him. He won't remember me. I was like 4 years younger than him or something. But we watched him flourish through our times. He helped us get promoted. But love Dean.
Yeah, very good player. Biggest pet peeve?
Rudeness or inconsideration.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Favourite household chore?
I hate household chores. But probably if I had to pick one, Probably cooking, because you get to be creative.
Yeah. What do you think when you look in the mirror?
Oh, this is getting deep. Not great things, to be honest.
Yeah, lots of people say that. I don't think anyone's ever said, "Yeah, my hair looks good today," or something along those lines.
Yeah.
How long do you spend getting ready in the morning?
About half an hour, maybe
Okay.
45 minutes if I'm putting makeup on.
Yeah. What inspires you on a daily basis?
Solo business owners,
Mm.
because I think they have the hardest job, and like when they make things work and look easy, I'm like, wow.
Yeah. I thought you might say people, because obviously you come from a journalism background and you're speaking to anyone and everyone on a different day. So in your journalism world, did people inspire you quite a lot then?
Yeah, just when people get on with their lives
Yeah.
and they've had something really bad happen to them. I remember particularly a lady, she horrendous motorbike accident, and she was saved by the clip on her helmet, because she flew off her motorbike. She crashed into a wall, flew off a motorbike, and her clip on her helmet hit the sort of pylon cable that was coming down, like anchoring the pylon in, and it hit that and spun around. And if she didn't have a helmet on, her head would have come off.
Wow.
And instead, it spun her around and took her leg off.
Cool.
And she was so positive about life, and it was literally like she'd got this second chance of life, and I was so inspired by her. Like, that is the horrendous thing. She's had to have her leg amputated, and she's still smiling. Like, I loved her.
Yeah. When did you last?
Think about her all the time, actually.
Yeah. When did you last cry?
This morning.
Okay. I hope it wasn't just coming on this podcast.
Yeah, terrified.
Best piece of advice you've ever been given?
So this is a work one, actually, and it was useful for every business who doesn't really know how to promote themselves. It's show, don't tell. So instead of telling everyone how good you are, you show them, and they make that decision themselves. And it's much more empowering for the person that you're speaking to, because they believe it then. If you're telling them something, they're like, oh yeah, well, you would say that. Yeah. But if you've shown them and they can believe it themselves, then you've won. That is my main motto for all my writing. It's show, don't tell.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. 3 guests you would invite to a dinner party, and why?
Catherine Ryan.
Yeah, good choice. Yeah.
She would be. We could talk about the Kardashians and reality TV.
Yeah.
My late cousin, because why would you not pick someone who you miss?
Yeah.
And Victoria Wood, who is, I think, my favourite celebrity. She's hilarious, but like so human and down to earth. Was down to earth. Yeah, and I think what she managed to achieve in her life was also very inspiring to me. She's a northerner who cracked London and got a TV show.
Yeah,
good on her.
Yeah, those 2 particular women are very powerful and very inspiring. So yeah, I would, and all the things that they've done as well, because as a comedian, Catherine Ryan, she really, I think, just makes women be seen from that point of view, and I think that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah.
And what makes a good person behind their brand?
Oh, is this really cliche? But authenticity. You've got to believe what you're saying, and if you don't, people see right through it. Yeah,
no, I completely agree with that. Look, Helen, it's been a real pleasure to have you on today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And perhaps to end the episode, you'd like to tell everyone where our listeners can find you and how they can benefit from your service.
Yeah, so my website is helenbarnettmedia.co.uk, and then you can find me on Instagram /Helen Barnett Media, and LinkedIn. Just search Helen Barnett. I got in there early in the LinkedIn days, and so my URL is just Helen-Barnett. And location wise, I'm in Billericay, serving Essex, but I also cover the whole of the UK because I work remotely. So yeah, all that's wherever you are, get in touch.
Perfect. Thanks, Helen.
So that's it for this episode of People Behind Brands. If you like what you heard today, do yourself a favour, subscribe to our exclusive content now and follow us on our social media when you search People Behind Brands Podcast or at Podcast PBB. Join us next time for a brand new guest as we explore more life lessons from the world of business. We'll see you soon. Ta-da!